Alright, so I'm going to tell you what runes you should be going depending on the team composition. Let's see. So I have 3 rune pages in general. This is just a meme. This is the core standard, which is basically luxury if you get this, but most of the time you probably will get this. So Conqueror is the main core rune that you will want. There are certain occasions where you won't use it. Triumph is obvious. Alacrity is okay. There are going to be a few times, like in your match, you're going to take Tenacity instead. And then Coup de Grace is, you know, pretty much the same as Triumph. It's just mandatory. Now, the reason we go Domination here is because Sudden Impact is really good. And I don't care what fucking Yi-main tells you what. Ravenous Hunter is insane on Master Yi, okay? Here's the thing. Conqueror is going to cause true damage, right? Or let me start by saying this. When people say pick Ravenous Hunter on Yi, they are most likely going to make the argument, but your Alpha Strike doesn't do that much damage, right? But the thing is, your E counts as an ability, which means that you're healing from the true damage, right? And if you heal from true damage, and Conqueror converts your damage to true damage, you're going to do even more healing from Ravenous Hunter. And this actually works. You're going to heal from Conqueror, and you are going to heal from your E. It's not about healing from Alpha Strike, it's about healing from your Conqueror and E. That's why this combo is absolutely insane for Master Yi. Especially like once you get 2 items, you can solo Baron at 20 minutes. And the best part is, if you're fed at that point, you can just bait it. Because if you're doing Baron, you're going to stack your Ginsu, if you have Ginsu then, and your Conqueror, which means you can just turn and probably, I don't know, maybe 1v5. You'll probably die, but they're not going to be able to Baron anyways, because they're not you. So this is the general rune page that you'll want. Now, variations of this, or well, first of all, when would you want to take this, right? Well, let's say they have... Oh boy, this is going to be hard. Let's say it's a Poppy top, Lucian mid. I don't know what's an ADC that doesn't have a lot of CC. Tristana. What's a cheap jungler? Let's say Trundle. And I think let's say some irrelevant support like, I don't know, Soraka, yeah. So that's a low CC comp with quite a few squishies, right? That's like 3 or 4. 3. So this is going to be really good because you have the Conqueror, which is going to deal with Poppy and Trundle. And you have Sudden Impact and the rest of your shit for the squishies. And you're going to melt them really fast. Another thing, if you have the luxury, is if you don't need to get Blade of the Ruined King in one of your games. In fact, you could probably skip Blade of the Ruined King in this game unless Trundle and Poppy gets fed. But let's say they don't. Let's say they're mediocre. And let's say that Lucian is the problem. Instead of getting Blade of the Ruined King, you can go Gunblade. I'm serious. Although first you need Ginsu before you get Gunblade. The reason is, if you get Ginsu and then Gunblade, the AP is going to add to the on-hit that you get from Ginsu. But the thing about Gunblade is that it gives you more damage in flat stats than Blade of Ruined King, and the active ability has more damage than Blade of the Ruined King. So it's... Not only do you do more damage, but it heals from all sources, right? Which means your E true damage now heals even more. Your Conqueror heals not even more, but it gets better. Your AP damage from Ginsu, or even worse if you have Wit's End, is going to be massively healed from by Gunblade. It's pretty much broken if you can build like that. It's gonna be rare to have the luxury to build Gunblade, but if you do, it synergizes so well. I'm convinced that Gunblade is the best item on Yi if you have the right setup, right? If you can't rush Gunblade and expect something. It's like a trinity, and I don't mean trinity force the item, I mean as a holy trinity. Once you get like the items to support Gunblade, it's absolutely broken. It's insane. So what are the situations where you would want to pick something else? Okay, this is a crit setup, which I almost never use. I don't play a lot of crit. I know I played crit last game, or like when I was against you, but I'll touch more on that later. But this is what a crit build looks like, and with this you would most likely go Ghost, because your attack speed is going to be insane. And with Celerity you can get maybe up to like 40 or 20 AD, and the center's around an 80 build, which we can go more into later on how to build that. But this is a very speedy build, and it's crit oriented, so it's very assassin-like, right? This is the Ka sort of playstyle, and this is the Tryndamere sort of playstyle. And then we have this. This, it kind of sucks going this page, but sometimes you have to, like in the last 2 games we played. So the reason you had to pick this is I accidentally picked Second Wind. That's supposed to be bone plating with unflinching. So Conqueror here is kind of a loss because you had to go Blade of the Ruined King, but you won't be able to heal from Conqueror, and since Conqueror is going to convert to true damage, you're going to do less healing with your Blade of the Ruined King. So here's a situation where you could go Lethal Tempo or Fleet Footwork, but I'm kind of insecure about it, so I just stick to Conqueror. I don't know, I'm just so comfortable with Conqueror. It's the same as here, but you know, tenacity. Right, so it's not just about the tenacity combo. Like if they have a lot of CC, but let's say it's Rammus, Trundle, Poppy, Galio, and another tank support, Braum, and then their only damage is Vayne, right? Then you could totally go for this page. Except the only thing you do is you switch Alacrity to Tenacity, and then you buy the boots Mercury Treads, and you get 60% Tenacity. That's really good. You're still going to have, I mean, Sudden Impact isn't going to be that good against the tanks, but you know, you can get Conquer, and you have the Ravenous Hunter healing, and then you have Blade of the Ruined King, so it's going to be really good. And then you can go on hit against tanks, and then Ravenous Hunter is going to sustain really high from the Ginsu and all that. So that would be optimal, right? But when you have to go Resolve, that's in situations where we have the last game, for example, right? So they had Varus mid, which is not Lucian, which means he has CC. He has a slow and a stun. You can alpha the stun, although it might be a little hard, but you can. But what if you can't, right? And then there's Echo, and Echo can stun you as well. And then there's Caitlyn's traps, so they can stun you as well. You can't alpha everything. And if you can alpha everything, oh, let's not mention Gnar, right? Let's not even get into Gnar. So that's one thing, right? There's a ton of CC that you're just not going to be able to dodge. But that was the same situation as before, right? There's just too much CC to be able to handle, so you can't dodge it, so you get Tenacity, and then Mercury Treads, and you stick to this page. But why are we going Resolve this time? Well, the reason is because last game they had too much damage, right? They had one tank. They had Varus mid, that's an ADC. They had Caitlyn, that's damage. And they had Echo, that's AP damage. That's a lot of damage. Now, the reason I went crit, right here, where's my page? Come on, right here. The reason I went crit is because it's kind of accidental. I had to plan for going with Essence Reaver. Like, I had to plan this, right? Because there's too much damage And there wasn't that much CC, so that was okay. But there was still too much damage that I had to dodge. So I had to plan for an Essence Reaver, and I decided to try. This isn't normal. I decided to try this because I'm still experimenting. I was thinking about Blade of the Ruined King, but I saw that nobody was really that tanky. And nobody that was like a major problem actually went tanky, right? I mean, Lee Sin got kind of fed. Gangplank got sort of fed, but Gangplank wasn't an issue. Lee Sin wasn't an issue, and he was going, you know, full lethality. I saw that he bought Duskblade, which made me go Ninja Tabby here. So tankiness wasn't really an issue for me, so I decided to try Stormrazor. So that's why I went Stormrazor. Essence Reaver should never be the second item.
Hej,
Ja,
de här på pizza, på fika, jag menar 3 stycken per 75.
mhm,
Jag vet inte om det är extra allt eller något.
mhm.
Men om du vill så kan du gå och köpa.
Japp, jag kan göra det sen.
Ja, men tänk på att det är klockan 6 över 6:30.
Ja, ja,
Det är lördag.
japp, jag vet.
Ja.
Moving on. So when they have too much damage, that's when we need resolve, because we need the extra HP to be able to actually tank. Now, that's also why I went Essence Reaver. Essence Reaver is really good for dodging a lot of CC. Let's say that was Leona instead, and let's say that was, let's say you were Varus instead. I would have still picked Essence Reaver. But see, here's the thing, right? There's 4 fucking AD damagers and only 1 AP. And Akali got fed, right? My first thought was, okay, I'm gonna go Wit's End, because Akali is fed. And Wit's End is really great as a defensive item. Because if you think about this, when you stack Wit's End, that's 70 magic resist flat. That's the highest you could possibly get from just one item in flat stats, right? I mean, Adaptive gives 55, but then it also gives you that unique bonus that does less damage if it's a repeated skill, like, let's say, Syndra's Ultimate, right? But the reason I didn't go Wit's End is because of the unique passive, which is that they do 12% less damage, right? Because that means Gangplank is suddenly countered by that passive. You're countered by it. Lee Sin isn't gonna one-shot me. And most importantly, it counters her, the only AP. So it's a hybrid defensive item. And then I decided to get Guardian Angel finally, some more armor, because the rest were full armor. So you understand how I sort of itemized this? Stormrazor was just, I don't know, right? It's just kind of, I need something to fill here. It could have been Blade of the Ruined King, it could have been Ginsu. But this was just something new I tried. But Blood Razor is always first, and then comes here. Boots, I don't know, it varies so much when I'll get boots. I will always finish Blood Razor before I get tier 1 boots. And then if someone buys Duskblade really early, I have to rush Ninja Tabby, because it enhances an auto attack, which means when I block 12% damage from basic attacks, that's countered by Duskblade. So it's really important to get Ninja Tabby as soon as someone gets Duskblade. So it can depend. Sometimes I have to get it after Blood Razor. Sometimes I could have gotten it after Stormrazor. I think this game I did go it after Stormrazor. So let's look at some other builds I've done. Right, here's one where I went Ginsu and Essence Reaver. And I don't know what my secondary runes here were, but I am assuming this would have been Domination, most likely. It would have been Domination or Resolve, because this has a lot of damage, right? Saya can stun as well. He can fear, and he's going fucking movement speed, so that's a lot. He mostly does damage early. Yasuo can be a problem, but I do counter him after all. And of course, Vel'Koz support does insane damage. So they were high damage, so I could have gone Resolve, but I think I went Domination. And again, see, here's the thing, right? If I go Tenacity and he stuns me, or, well, he knocks, and that's the problem, right? If he knocks me, that's not going to help me with stun. If she roots me, that's going to be reduced by the Tenacity, but not this. And the same with him, right? And the same with him. That's why Essence Reaver is really good, because those are CC utilities or mechanics that can't be reduced by tenacity, which is where your Q comes really high into play. So that's another thing. I think I went Ginsu this game because I needed to stack my Essence Reaver even further. Because if I hit twice, then it's going to reduce my Q cooldown, and this reduces my Q cooldown even further, right? So Ginsu plus Essence Reaver is a good combo to just absolutely spam Q. But the issue here is that it gives 25 attack damage instead of, let's say, if he went tanky and they had, let's say, Galio mid lane who was tanky, then maybe Blade of the Ruined King would be better instead, right? Because it gives more flat damage, it gives 40 AD, which is going to buff my Q damage, which is what I have to rely on. Which is why I tried Storm Racer as well. Because after every Q, more or less, it recedes my Storm Racer. Here's one. That's an Essence Reaver, and it's a Blade of Ruined King. And you can see they have Tom, Syndra. That's a big problem if I can't Q her dodge. Q her stun. God damn it. There's Kayn. He went Red Kayn. There's Akali. That's a lot of damage. And there's Jhin. That's a lot of damage. So this is another resolve game, and I had to rely on them being tanky. I mean, he went Red Kayn, so he was tanky. Tom was tanky. Not rely on them going tanky, fuck's sake. But that's why I went Blade of the Ruined King, but I still had to go Essence Reaver because there was so much that I had to dodge. I know there's a lot of games where I built Essence Reaver, and I said that Essence Reaver is a bad item. And this is kind of a hypocrisy because I build it so much, but I am serious. It's not a good item. I'm forced to build this item because of their teams. It's an issue. I just won in ranked, right? I don't know if we can take much from this. Yeah, Fizz, that's huge damage. Graves is a lot of damage. That's a fucking CC machine. That's a CC machine. And that's a lot of damage. So I might have gone domination here, but I would not be able to make an argument outside of I'm fucking retarded if I did. So this was probably resolve. I had to go Wit's End because that's a lot of damage. She does hybrid damage, and that's a lot of damage. Black Cleaver, that's because this guy exists. And he is half tanky, despite him going lethality. Graves does have an inherent type of tankiness to him, especially with his E that gives him more resistance, and I think his passive is somehow involved in that as well. Black Cleaver also gives me 400 health and 20% cooldown, so it helps with more Qs while being somewhat of a defensive item. Blade of the Ruined King, because of Shen mainly, and it's not that good against Graves, honestly, but yeah, I couldn't go Ginsu here either because Ginsu is too expensive. And we were behind in this game, which might sound weird because my team is doing good. I mean, they're not feeding really, except Fresh, but they had a really poor early game, and honestly, it was only up until like the last few minutes that everyone sort of catched up because I was able to carry it. So I couldn't go Ginsu because if you're behind, it's really hard to stack Ginsu. So I decided to go Blade of the Ruined King here. Mercury Treads because, well, Fizz and him and that. So, yeah, here's another one. This was a loss. I don't know what to say about this. This was long ago. Well, a few days maybe, I don't know. But, yeah, that's, I don't know how much I covered. I'm sure you probably have some questions. I guess I could go into items maybe real quick. I have a few. Let's see. And here's a bunch of optionals. I don't play Bruiser or Tanky, so these are almost never used. It's basically in order of importance almost, although it's kind of outdated. This should be up here maybe. Death Stand should maybe be up here. Phantom Dancer is missing, so on and so forth. What's my other builds? I know I have multiple Yi builds. I'm just not sure where I can find them. Because it is in the list. Okay, so this is the crit Yi build. You go Warrior and then you go Edge of Night. And the reason you go Edge of Night is because you go Berserker Greaves here. And because the build in general lacks lifesteal and other quality of life features, there's a lot of things that are inconsistent with this build, and Edge of Night helps with gaining resistance early on. And going Berserker Greaves means that you're missing a lot of potential defense bonuses, like Ninja Tabby, or if you go Merc Treads, you miss Tenacity. So that's why Edge of Night is after Warriors. After that, you go Stormrazor, and then Shiv, and then these three are optional. You can go more damage, you can get defensive, or you can get the secondary offensive. It says PHE. PH stands for Philippines, because the person who Fury crafted this build is from the Philippines. He's master tier. So that's just some info about that. It's I really do not recommend learning this build until you like main him or half main him, or like really know what you're doing, because it's completely different. It's very volatile, it's very unstable, it's snowbally. It's really different. It's really different. Completely different playstyle and everything. So I don't know what more to cover. This video is probably way longer than I expected, but I hope that's helpful. And definitely ask some questions if you have, and I can probably cover it as well. So yeah, I hope this is a little more helpful.